One of the things that I say is I would rather eat canned beans for the rest of my life than go back to working for a place where you are traumatized and gaslit beyond belief, where you just think, wait, did I really have those accomplishments or not?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Embracing Only podcast with Olivia and Archita. We're really excited to have our guest here today, Sibil Patri, who is a dynamic and visionary leader whose career spans over 2 decades across finance and strategy. As a first-gen US citizen with roots in Kerala, India, she brings a unique and diverse perspective to her work. Sibil's journey began in the high-stakes world of corporate America, where she made a significant mark as an award-winning financial strategy executive. Her success in this arena, however, was just a prelude to a more profound calling. Realizing that her true passion lay in creating systemic change and fostering inclusive environments, Sibil founded In Pursuit Collective. This initiative reflects her commitment to advocacy and empowerment, focusing on coaching, collaborating, and storytelling to uplift marginalized and racialized communities. Her work is deeply transformed by her personal experiences and cultural heritage, driving her to challenge and reimagine existing systems in corporate America and beyond. As a strategic collaborator and truth-telling keynote speaker, Sibil is known for her empathetic leadership and radical vision. Her mission is not just to succeed individually, but to pave the way for collective growth and liberation. Sibil's approach combines her extensive corporate experience with a deep understanding of social dynamics and makes her a sought-after voice in discussions around diversity, inclusion, and systemic change. Welcome to the Embracing Only podcast, Sibil.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to dig right in, and Olivia's going to get us started. I just want to first say a huge congratulations on starting In Pursuit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Labor of love, Archita, as you know, and so many people helped me along the way, including you. So thank you for cheering me on through those dark times.
Absolutely. No, so glad to see you paving the way for so many more now. Right, Olivia, what do we have here to get Sibil right into things?
All right, to get right into this, first question for me. You obviously spent a ton of time in the corporate space, building a brand, having quite a bit of success in that space. And at some point in time, you made the transition into a very different world. And so we work with a lot of women that find themselves in these high-level executive roles, feeling completely unfulfilled, but scared to take a leap to align to their passions. How did you make that transition?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. And I think that my answer is a little different than a lot of others, although I have a lot of similar themes as other women that have made this transition. I actually really enjoyed corporate, and I didn't realize all of the harm it was doing to me. For me, it helped me cope with trauma that I had in the past. So I really like the structure and the validation and climbing up something, reaching a goal. Those things made me feel like normal. And then for the past 2 or 3 years, something started to feel off. I got to this level of success and I thought, okay, so this is great. I'm going to keep climbing. I'm going to keep going. And then I had this huge roadblock of, you're not meant to go all the way this high. And I said, oh, yes, I am. And they were like, oh, no, you're not. And so when I was met with that resistance, I started questioning everything. And for a couple of years, I let the fear stop me. I said, okay, maybe I don't need to go up that high. I'll stay where I am. I'm still getting paid. I'm still providing for my family. The financial security was so important to me. And so anytime anybody would say to me, why don't you leave and go to a different company that recognizes you or do something on your own? My immediate reaction was like, no way, I am not doing this. And it comes from having an entrepreneur dad who had a convenience store, and we didn't have healthcare or benefits. For the first 21 years of my life, I didn't have a doctor. We would just sit home and pray when I got sick. And so I enjoyed the safety net of corporate, but I realized that corporate was killing me too. Just like having no health insurance, I was really traumatized mentally and emotionally. And when I finally realized that, I did it because I had no choice. I left because I had no choice. And I thought, if I'm going to do this and I have to do this, let me just create the most beautiful thing I can think of. And that's how In Pursuit Collective was born.
That, and if Archita will allow me, I have a little bit of a follow-up question because I think you're hitting on some pretty major things here. There's always core beliefs that we hold deep within ourselves that drive our behaviors, right? Like they manifest at work. And for you, it sounds like it was that safety, right? That security, or however you define safety and security in your mind, that was a foundational thing for you. So shifting into this new space, how did you overcome that core belief of finding the safety, finding the security? Did you plan for that and that made it comfortable enough for you to shift? Or did you finally say, you know what, it might be unsafe, but my mental health is more important? And so you just reprioritized what was important to you.
That's a great question. Yeah, I did have to reprioritize a little bit. As a child of immigrants, my parents came to America in survival mode. And that is the mode that we were on. Like, you need to make money. We need to send money back home to the family. We need to uplift ourselves out of poverty because that's how my parents grew up. And so for them, liberation meant financial freedom. And as we continue along with that legacy, for me, liberation means something a little bit different than that. So I realized that I do want that financial freedom, but I already have that in some ways. We've moved past poverty. And so I don't have to worry about not having my next meal. And now it's more about liberating the mind and other ways like liberation of time, having quality time to spend with the family, making sure I can say what's on my mind freely. And so it still matters to me, but I realize that I don't need to be in survival mode like my parents were. And I'm doing it scared. I am still scared. I cannot say that I'm not. There are sacrifices that we make every day. I am married and I have 2 children, and we are a 2-income family. And right now, in a sense, my husband is very supportive, but we have struggles. We talk about what we are going to cut back on. And I realize that all of the things that we have that we thought we needed, all of these luxuries, we don't need so many of those things. And my children teach me that every day too. They don't need this fancy life. They just need our time and they need love. And so it's been a huge shift for all 4 of us in our family to embrace this new way of life and do it scared, but make some sacrifices for what we all believe is for the better of our family and for the world. I hope that answered your question.
It did. I think it did in many different ways. I just love it. Because Sibyl, as I reflect on like my journey of leaving the corporate workspace, which was a lot of the things you were saying in the beginning there, Olivia would literally tell me, do not lead with fear. Because that's how I was leading with as I was leaving the corporate workspace, right? And very recently in a conversation with my therapist, this is what we unpacked, is that now it feels safer to do things on my own than to be in a space that I thought was financial security, that was safe. When that moment hit, it was like, you're right, because I could not fathom when you're out on your own, it's just like a beautiful amalgamation of efforts and blood and sweat and tears, but in a way in which you are driving versus some corporate machine, right? So I'm just curious, did you go through that kind of journey? Do you feel safer now than you did while you were within an environment that brought you to safety from another traumatic experience that you had previously?
Yes, 100%. I feel safer. One of the things that I say is I would rather eat canned beans for the rest of my life than go back to working for a place where you are traumatized and gaslit beyond belief, where you just think, wait, did I really have those accomplishments or not? Because when you're made to feel like there is something wrong with you and you're going crazy, owning my own mental health is absolutely priceless. So yeah, it's worth it. I'm still scared. There's still a lot of uncertainty, but 100% it's worth it. And I want to be able to show other people that it is worth it too. And it's not going to be perfect and it won't be pretty all the time. And there's hustle involved. And sometimes you just want to rest. Sometimes I just want a break. Do you feel like that? I just want a break.
I
I
hear
just want to
you.
heal and not worry about anything.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I can feel that. Literally. I feel like it's like the energy of just take a minute. The world is on freaking fire, literally, as we speak. And people out there, they can't even talk about the word rest. The word rest is the luxury right now. That for us, it's okay, I can choose to if I want to, but no, I want to build this, so I'm not resting. And so there is always this like dichotomy between like, okay, no, I got to keep moving. I got to keep speaking up. I got to keep activating and empowering because people don't even have a choice to rest. And that is the hard thing too, because I think, Olivia, you might have said this to me once, is that in order to keep going in pursuit of liberation of whatever it is that you're driving, rest is a significant component of it if you want to do it sustainably.
No, you're spot on. And honestly, Sibyl, when you said rest, like I'm throwing a small party in my seat over here because I came from a family of immigrants as well. And then I took the military path and then the corporate path. And I'm lagging behind you ladies. I'm working my way out of the corporate path right now myself. But I think when you think about the concept of rest, this big corporate machine and our capitalistic society that we live in doesn't allow for that. But it's this great lie that we have all internalized that movement is the only way to success. Nothing in nature moves continuously. As a matter of fact, you have to recharge your energy so that you can continue to work. If you think about just the seasons, right? We're in winter right now. Everything goes dormant. The trees lose their leaves only to come back bigger and better in spring. We need that time of rest to restore our creativity, to restore our motivation, and to get into alignment. And I will say this, I heard something, I can't remember where I heard it. I think it was Instagram, but it could have been in one of the number of articles that I read that says that it's not about productivity, it's about alignment. You can be productive in anything that you do. You can be productive in 45,000 things, and none of them are aligned to your specific purpose and mission. And when you get into alignment, holy crap, does that productivity start to mean a whole lot more. So I love what you said, Sibyl, about taking that moment to breathe and to rest. It's so very important. And I would like to layer onto that idea the concept of alignment. If you're in these big executive roles and you're wondering what's left and you feel empty as heck inside, girl, you are not aligned. We need to go do some work and figure out what that is. And then guess what? When you're in alignment, the work becomes easier. So I don't know if both of you have experienced that in terms of finding your alignment, and the work becomes easier because you're not fighting your own self. You're not fighting your own motivation in order to be productive. Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Cream. If you are a corporate girly and you are struggling, you're feeling stuck, maybe you're feeling underpaid, overqualified, you're struggling with your boss, or bigger yet, you're even trying to clearly articulate what it is that you want from your corporate career, I am the coach for you. So if you're ambitious and you've got goals to accomplish and you want to accomplish them quickly, check out my website, oliviacream.com. I would love to help you reach your goals.
Hi, everybody. I'm Archita Fritz, your other host of the Embracing Only podcast. If you're ready to leave corporate, or you've changed a couple of corporate jobs and want to start a profitable side brilliance, you've made the decision, but you feel unsure of the next steps, here's how I can help you. I can guide you through a successful transition to entrepreneurship to help turn those ideas into profit. So reach out to me on LinkedIn or visit me on architafritz.com to accelerate your empowered transitions. Now, back to the episode.
Yes, I 100% agree about the alignment. And I feel like I'm finally aligned with my core values. However, where I get stuck is that the system that we live in does not necessarily allow people to be aligned with liberation, because we live in a capitalist system and we have to make money. And in order to make money, we have to produce. And it's a really tough spot because I have so much alignment with what I'm doing. I wish I can get paid all day long for all of these thoughts and thought leadership in the way that I want to create a society that is more sustainable. But it's really hard to do that in the current system. And that is why I'm tired. And we must rest. You are 100% right. We have to rest, because if you want this work to be sustainable, you have to think about it in the long term. And if we are just consuming media and posting 24/7, we're going to burn out. I know that because I've burnt out a few times, and now I know that I need to go slower. But yeah, the other part of it is, how do we do this in a system that wasn't built for true alignment with a liberation movement, if that makes sense?
It does. And it comes with personal sacrifices when you're trying to do this, because you want to drive this, you're in pursuit of this mission, but there's this inertia that's constantly like against that movement that you're driving. So when you consider even that decision, when you decided, well, okay, it's time for me to step away. But Olivia always tells me you always have a choice. So I understand, like, that was your choice. As you stepped away from the choice, there were certain personal sacrifices, because a lot of times when you leave a really like extremely successful corporate career, individuals are like, okay, was I really good at? What did I get paid for? And what people told me that I kept delivering success in, I'm going to go pursue that thing, right? Because it feels safer as you pursue other forms of liberation. But Sibil, you went like direct. That's what I think fires so many people up. You're like, I am not making two qualms about, let me go do a little bit of this consulting or something else. I'm going all into this liberation. And so what were those unseen personal sacrifices that you had to grapple with, that you had to weigh against the rewards of the work that you're going to do here?
Yeah, that one hits hard, because you've seen my LinkedIn and my Instagram, what I talk about. And a lot of these subjects are very taboo in financial services, in corporate spaces. You are supposed to present this corporate persona. And I did that with flying colors for 20 years. And for 40 plus years of my life, everything that I have felt about humanity was in this little container. And I never really spoke about these things. And I needed to release that. And I did have a choice, you're right, but it was a calling. And if you knew me a couple of years ago, I would never use a word like calling, but it was that strong and it was that intense that it was nothing other than a calling to talk about these things, to be this voice for these things that people that have my credential dare not talk about. And I realized that because when I started removing the veil and saying, okay, this is what I am dealing with, how many people responded, including you, right, Archie, that like we wouldn't have met had I not started talking so freely about these systems. So for me, there was no other way to do this than to do it wholly and completely. There are no baby steps. And I say that because so many people say, oh, you're so passionate about DE&I and you're so passionate about social justice. And to me, it is, let's talk about fundamental human rights. If fundamental human rights don't exist, in the workplace, and I could tell you a million reasons why they don't. We can call it unconscious bias and we can call it microaggressions, but these are fundamental human rights of dignity, of people being able to show up as they are. And these were taken away from me. I know what it feels like to be dehumanized. And I believe that you two know it as well in some way, shape, or form. And when you feel that for so long, and then you finally realized what happened to you, I was able to look at everything around me with such moral clarity, such discernment. And that is what I'm fighting for. I'm not passionate about anything other than every human being should live with dignity and they should live with respect. And if you can't apply that in a corporate setting and you can't apply that to your own families or anything, then what are we doing? How can we build off of anything other than that as a foundation? So I'm working on the foundation. And before, I was trying to make the penthouse look fancy.
Leaving is not losing. Because I think a lot of people, especially after they've had so much success that they knew this was their version of success, they think leaving is losing. And I can tell you in like my last 18 months, good Lord, I've turned over and looked at my husband and been like, oh, should I have just stuck it out? Look at this and that. And then he'll ask me this one question. He's like, would you want this? And my answer is always no. Like I did not want whatever the heck that opportunity was that I'm like obsessing about right now or randomly, but I'm still like unpacking and unlearning my definition of what I defined as success for literally the first 30 plus years of my life. But knowing this, that leaving is not losing. I wish I knew this 2 years ago because I've had to like recognize this now. So for anyone listening, as Miss Olivia always tells me, focus on what you can control and then go change it. Miss Olivia.
Oh, 100%. You know, I'm nodding over here. we talk about this stuff so often, but Sibil, I have to point out a couple things for our audience because I feel like you have a healthy blend of spiritual guidance and alignment as well as the corporate. I hear it in the language that you use, right? And I'm going to make a statement and then I'm going to ask you a question. Money is just energy. Sure, it's a currency, but it's energy. What energy are you willing to exchange for that paycheck? I ask everybody that comes to me that because we are giving a piece of ourselves. And in these institutions where we have some of these systemic issues, right, to your point of lack of humanity dressed up as psychological safety or any of those other things. It's totally just dressed up. You're absolutely right. I think that's a fabulous point. And when you are fighting in your workspace to get your humanity recognized, you can't possibly grow. There's no growth there because you're in this constant state of, I'm not safe, I'm not safe, I'm not safe. And we all know how our brains work, that when it's not safe, you can't be as creative. You can't be as innovative. You can't be your best self in that kind of environment. And so I challenge our listeners, if you find yourself right now in a spot that Sibil and Archita just talked about, where you are trading your mental safety for a paycheck, get out now. I know it's scary because it's the unknown, but get out now because the damage is quantifiable. We all talk about it, the burnout, the mystery illnesses, all sorts of crap that happens to us when we internalize what's being done to us in some of these spaces. Go find another space. And I'm happy to report I'm still in corporate, but I made a slight change for some reasons that we don't necessarily need to get into here, into another corporate space, although it's private equity, much more aligned with me right now. So it doesn't mean you have to leave the corporate space in general. We're providing everyone with examples of how people are finding their way. But one thing I want to leave people with, especially people like me that tend to be very right brain, very logical, feelings are facts, people. And if every day your body is in this constant state of fight or flight, this is not your space, no matter how your logical brain wants to rationalize it. You're feeling pain because the universe, God, spirit guides, whatever you want to call it, is telling you, how much more painful do I have to make this before you do something? That's what's happening to you. So take the leap. So for you, Sibyl, now that you're in this new space, I want to come back to finding your voice and speaking your truth. Consequences be damned, because that's where you are right now. And as your freedom, we talked about your sacrifices, but what did you gain? What did you gain in that transition?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I highly recommend it. The first time I spoke truth to power, it was really scary, but it was my practice for the next time. And I think that all of the truth to power I spoke in corporate spaces was my training for what I'm doing now. So I will go to a town council meeting, I will go to a school board meeting, I will show up anywhere. And what you gain is this fearlessness of being unbought, being able to stand in your truth and discern what you're doing and why you're doing it with clarity. That just, for me, it came with practice. And I'll give you an example. Like before, when I used to have trolls on my LinkedIn page, I used to spend so much time thinking about them and getting anxiety and figuring out what should I respond, and then spending so much time responding. And fast forward a couple of years later, now when I see trolls, I read what they write, I take a deep breath, I delete them, I block them, and I think, oh yeah, that was just a troll. And that's the discernment that comes with the experience. You're speaking out. People are always going to be against you when you speak out. So it gives you that resilience that you always wish you don't need that resilience, but it gives you resilience. And it also gives you this discernment and clarity. And I know I said fearless, but I also said I do it scared. There is a bit of both. I am still scared when I talk in spaces and I speak truth to power. My voice still shakes, but I do it with so much conviction. I just know that it needs to be done. And I know that I'm the vessel that needs to carry the message with the spirituality in there. I just know that's what I'm meant to do.
Oh my God. I can't tell you how much I love that. We talk about fear so much. We had a whole section last year. I mean, podcast where we're just tackling fear and how you get over it. And I think you nailed it. We say it all the time. Like when we say be fearless, it's not the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyways, right? Yeah. The haters will always rear their heads, right? And these are the people that are stuck in the system themselves. They can't figure out a way out, or maybe they know full well where they are and they're like, holy crap, people are waking up. The consciousness is rising and I got to help keep everybody in their place. Ignore them. It's noise, right? And I think you have done something that we label reclaiming your power. You have snatched your power back from everyone and everything and said, you know what? You don't get to define me. You don't get to tell me who I am. I get to tell you who I am. And if you don't like it, find another place. Your voice matters this much here. And I wish all of us could find that level of freedom. You are bulletproof at this point. If you can move through life feeling unconcerned about what the haters say, it makes you literally bulletproof. And I am so happy, so excited.
It comes with awkwardness, right? I live in a small town and there are people that don't talk to me anymore. I've lost friends, but none of it actually matters when you have moral clarity. So I go back to that, figure out what you stand for and why. And yeah, I think it just shifts you to a different space of being who you are so unapologetically that, you know what, it tends to get less awkward for you and maybe more awkward for all of those other people because it just doesn't matter. And it took a very long time for me to get there to say that it doesn't matter. One of my really good friends from my old company said to me, and you've heard this before, but I still think about it all the time, you are not for everyone. Yes. Right? It's so simple. I play that in my head all the time. You're not for everyone. That's okay. And so many of us are brought up to be for everyone, to be everything for everyone, to please everybody, to show up in our desi way when we go to a desi thing and then show up corporate. No, we're not these different compartmentalized human beings.
Oh my God.
We are not for everyone, and that is okay.
Yes, like I want to shout out loud because I copy pasted. So Sibil puts this at the end of all of her LinkedIn posts, and I want to read it. And it says, "Hi, I'm Sibil Patri, founder and CEO of In Pursuit Collective. My vision is to reimagine systems of work and life that are sustainable, equitable, and deliberately anti-racist that cause less harm to all. I'm available for paid keynote speaking, podcast experiences, executive coaching, and consulting. I am not for everyone, but maybe I am for you." Boom. Sibyl, you are claiming it in every, and you spoke about this Desi, and it's like something Olivia and I talk about is people pleasing. I am literally trying to unlearn my good girl, eldest daughter, first one in the entire family to leave India and move to America to pursue and chase the American dream. And then everyone's looking to me at this laser focus. So I'm having to unlearn like years and years of conditioning of people pleasing to get to this, which all my coaches tell me is, Archita, you need to claim, I am not for everyone, but maybe I am for you. And in your like whole persona right now that you have built moral clarity for, this is what guides you. And I think it's beautiful. I really want to know, you need to help me here. Like, how did you get to this point? What was that journey? Because it doesn't happen overnight. And I'm sure you had a very different childhood experience than I did, but still, like, our Indian upbringing and even immigrant upbringing causes us to be people pleasers in so many ways.
Yeah, it's really painful. And right, like it's beautiful on the other side, but it's so painful. And that's why so many people don't want to do it. And that's why so many people numb themselves with whatever it is, whether it's buying things. And I've done all of the above to numb the pain and not actually feel it. And I think one of the biggest things for me is that I have been a black sheep in my family for so long. And the immigrant experience as one of the older cousins of a family of 40 cousins. And I've had to be the one that is the prime example. And I've always just been making mistakes along the way. And one of the things that I learned earlier on, and this helped me, but it's not a happy story, I will never make my mom happy. Never. We are just two completely different people. And that in your core, that is something that most people need, right? This need for their parents' validation. Yeah. And when I realized that when I was much younger, then I started trying to get that validation from corporate and my in-laws and other places. But I had that training of, I know what it feels like for the most important person in your life to be disappointed in you, that you will never be enough for that person. And then I just tried to be enough for everybody else. And now at this point, I just want to be enough for myself. And I want to show up for my children and my husband who embrace me for who I am. But let me tell you, it's not pretty when there are people in the family that are, I come from an Indian family and I'm married to an Indian man. People see what I post and good Indian girls don't post what I post.
No, they don't.
And there are repercussions to that. And so I, again, had to sit with my clarity of who do I want to be? And I think the biggest thing is it's not about being a good Indian girl. It's about breaking generational and systemic traumas and making it better for my descendants, not for those that came before me. I can be grateful for what they've done for me, but I need to make it better for the future. And that means being rock solid in the clarity of who you are. And it comes with a lot of pain and it comes with a lot of loss.
I want our audience to hear this because it's so common. And a lot of times when you're going through this and you're shocked to find out that the hater, right? I'm not trying to be disrespectful and call our family members haters, but sometimes the haters are in your own family because they have this concept of, or this vision of what they want you to be that has nothing to do with you and what you're actually here to do at all. And so it causes this rift. And for me, it was my father. Archita knows this, and I'm getting more comfortable about talking about this freely, not because I have any ill will towards my father, but I think growing up, he was the most important person in my life. And like you, I just wanted his validation. And that actually caused me to achieve quite a bit, because every time he moved the bar, I was like, no problem. If I hit the bar, he'll love me. But then the bar just kept moving. And so I realized at some point in time, I was never going to get that validation from the most important person in my life. And just like you, I sought it elsewhere. In the military, I was going to be an admiral. I was going to get all these accommodations. I was going to do all the toughest jobs, and I was going to rock it out. It was going to be amazing. And then life happened, and I left the military and entered the corporate space. Same thing. I'm going to climb the ladder. I'm going to be the first to do this. I'm going to get all these accolades. But what I was doing was filling the void of validation with all these external things instead of validating myself, right? Being comfortable in myself. And I share this again, you guys, if you're in the audience and you're listening, this is so important for me, for people to understand that this journey is not easy. No one is going to tell you that when you align to your calling, when you take a leap to break generational curses, when you do things that are outside of the norm, it is not going to be easy, but it is so worth it. And you're going to have to shed these versions of you that have been supplied by outside forces, whether it's your family, your job, your husband, your whoever, and decide for yourself who you are and why you're here, and be committed to chasing that so that you can be happy with yourself instead of seeking that approval elsewhere. That's how you snatch your power back from the world. That's how you snatch it back.
Yes, that is so beautifully said. And I just wanted to add to that, because I wish I learned this when I was younger. But I have this book that I read to my daughter. It's called A Kid's Book About Belonging. And it goes through what it means to belong. And there's one page, I read it and it gets me emotional. You must belong to yourself first. And what does that mean? It means love yourself. You must like yourself. You must accept yourself. You must care for yourself. It has a list of all these things you must do for yourself. All the things that I know I've neglected, even up until very recently. I really, truly now understand what self-care, conscious self-care means. It's not a manicure and a pedicure. It is loving yourself. It is belonging to yourself. It's doing the best for yourself. For me, it's maybe not drinking. That was the thing for me. And I said, how can I love myself and drink when I have this stress in my life? It's really trying to understand, what have I been doing to myself and my body that has been hurting me? And why am I hurting the person that I am supposed to love and care for? I am literally the person that is going to take care of this body and this soul. And that children's book really helped me. Those 2 pages about belonging to yourself and loving yourself. And I feel like, Olivia, your beautiful story about your dad and the things you were chasing, and that's what we're all really after, belonging to ourselves. And that is the most empowering thing of all.
Yeah. And I know you want to jump in, Archie, just to round this out. I have to say, that's so beautifully said. I actually just wrote that down, and it might become a daily reminder for me, because that was so powerful. And I think when you start to figure out how to love yourself, you teach other people how to love you too, right? You provide a guidebook for them. But you use the example of drinking, and I want to circle it back to being in corporate. If you are putting your body in fight and flight every day, to stay in a place, you're choosing not to love yourself. You're choosing to love the money or whatever it is that's keeping you there more than you are choosing yourself. So I just want to round out that thought as everyone starts to maybe reflect of how you are treating yourself, which then serves as an example for how people should treat you. And think about the many ways in your life, from not drinking or not exercising enough or being in a toxic workplace that makes you anxious and causes you to not sleep well at night, and all these other things, or saying yes to things that you want to say no to that stresses your body out. That comes in so many forms, ladies. So when you think about your self-love, think about your entire life. And listen to your body. Do this embodiment exercise. Just sit and breathe and feel what your body's feeling. It will tell you exactly what you need to move away from to take care of yourself. Take heed and just listen. Listen to that stillness. The voice is there, I promise you. Sorry, Archita, go ahead. Go ahead. I was on my soapbox.
If you don't know how to do it, you know who to call. Miss Sibil right here. Yes, so Sibil is coaching. She's leading women of color specifically in their pursuit of liberation towards that moral clarity that are in these current spaces. Because you listen to this stuff, you read quote cards, you watch Brené Brown, you watch some videos here and there, and you go into like your Saturday, Sunday, and you're just like, that was just so empowering. This podcast was great. And then you go back to the same nonsense and the same madness come Monday. You are not breaking the cycle for yourself in any way, shape, or form. So hit up Sibil 100%. She is taking on coaching clients as we speak. So as you are in pursuit of your liberation, you are collaborating for the collective liberation of many others. So Sibil, I want to end with this one last question. Okay, and then we're going to bring this to a close here. But there are lots of leaders who listen to the podcast, leaders in many different spaces, primarily in the corporate space. So there's one sentence, I think you mentioned this in one of your posts or somewhere, was anyone doing liberation work should center the most underrepresented. And I think I've heard this said in so many different ways. So can you help unpack that for leaders who are, I want to be there, I want to be there for my team, I want to be there for the collective end of systemic inequities, etc. There's a degree to which you can do that in the corporate spaces. You still need to try and you need to start the work within your team. So what does that mean and how can they start their journey as leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that is so meaningful. And I think that it's absent from so much of even corporate DE&I work. And what I found is that when you center the most marginalized, the most underrepresented groups, that is when you actually see the most benefit. So DE&I is not about promoting white women into the C-suite. DE&I is much more than that. And when you think about what I said before about fundamental human rights, think about your team and ask yourself this: does every single individual on my team have what they need to be successful, to achieve their potential? And if you're a leader and you're not thinking about your team that way, and you're only thinking about what you can extract from them, then this isn't going to work, right?
Yes.
Do they have what they need to succeed? And that is going to be different for everybody. Maybe it's remote work. Maybe it's some sort of access for a disability. But if you look at your team and the most marginalized person on your team is a person of color with a disability with all the other intersections, and you ask them, what do you need? And they trust you because you've earned that safe space with them, and they tell you what they need, that is only going to make the whole team stronger, because I'm sure there are other people that fit into other intersectionalities in there that benefit from that. It's like the most obvious example is men benefit from parental leave, or people that don't have a wheelchair benefit from the curbless access to the sidewalk that helps people with strollers and bikers. And so when you think about you're doing something for just one person, you're not, you're actually helping the collective. And that is what is missing. I see that happening all across the board, whether it's in school districts or in corporate. Everybody is trying to appease the comfort of the majority. They are centering the comfort of the majority and not thinking about centering the people that need it the most. And that is why one of many reasons why these programs are failing.
Gosh, you need to write a book. I hope you know that already. I'm sure you do. So if anyone's listening here and is a publisher, reach out to Sibil as well. But there is...
Look at you hooking me up.
I know, but yes, because there's so much value here and we need so many different voices, all right? Otherwise, it's the same voices hashed in many different ways. I'm going to just leave it at that. Sometimes Olivia raps me for the things I say out loud. But I want to actually bring us to a close here. And then, Sibil, I'm going to request you to share how people can find you, how they can engage with you, and everything else. To everyone listening, as we think and reflect on this episode in pursuit of liberation of your time, love, freedom that Sibil outlined for us, achieving moral clarity is really difficult. But when you achieve it and you put in the work towards it, you recognize that true liberation is learning how you must learn to belong to yourself. You have just given us the most beautiful gem, seriously, to start this year off. So thank you so much, Sibil. And please let the audience know here how they can reach and engage with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So my handle for social media is Sibil Patri, and I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn primarily. And my website is inpursuitcollective.com. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for having me on.
Sibil, we are so grateful for your presence. We are so grateful for your voice. And I would like to say to anyone in the audience thinking about getting some help, this journey is not easy. You will need coaches and mentors and guides. Invest in yourself. And so if Sibil is for you, I encourage you to take the step, reach out to her, get some help along your journey, because it's going to take all of us collectively raising the consciousness of our outside world so that we can finally break free of this system and not have to constantly work around it. So go find her, work towards your own liberation, define what that means for you. And as always, keep tuning in. We'll continue to bring on lovely human beings like Sibil that will show you how they are making a difference in their spaces. So as always, thank you for being with us. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.